Good evening. How are you? I'm Big Mike Kraft, former boss of the Lansky Group in the Northern Territories of the United States and Eastern Territories of Canada and Northern New England. I took over that job at the death of Meyer Lansky at the end of 1982. I'm a former nightclub owner and was a lifelong associate of both Paul DeCoco and Meyer Lansky. In 1974, Paulie DeCoco gave me $125,000 to kill Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau and Cuban President Fidel Castro. The plan was to kill Trudeau, to get Fidel out of Havana and come to Canada since they were best friends. The plan actually would have worked. The only downside of the plan is I would have never got Castro. I took the contract because if I didn't, I would have been killed immediately. In our line of work, once you know the main plan, you either do the deal or you die. The Toronto Star, the largest newspaper in Canada, ran a story on me January 3rd, 2008. They sent reporters, DVDs. We spent 5 hours together, but they lied in print. They made me look very bad. I was a sharpshooter. My father was a national pistol champion, and I can hit a target moving with my eyes closed at the time. I went to Canada in August 1974 to set up the pop on Pierre Trudeau. I was raised in Canada for 13 years by my mother in the summer times. I spent about a third of the year every year in Canada. I have family in the eastern townships in the province of Quebec. I was going to pop Pierre in Montreal, not in Ottawa. Ottawa was too small and basically English, and the law enforcement situation is different. The law enforcement situation is more open in Montreal since it's an international bilingual to trilingual city, and it's easier for me to pop him in Montreal. Now, the Montreal newspapers reported that I was a heavy drinker and a degenerate gambler. They did all the wrong things in the wrong time. I owned a chain of bars, and I drank a little beer, and I was $1 million a year gambler. I guess that's what they meant. But Meyer sent his best man, and he gave the money to his best man, which was my best friend, Paulie DeCoco, Sr. of Schenectady, New York. Paulie, I tried to talk him out of this. I said, why don't you keep the money? I said, we're making money in the trades on the street. I said, we're making some money. Yeah, you're making moves in the unions. I'm hijacking some trucks. We got money coming in the bars. There's a little bit of nefarious cash coming in. He said, no. He says, Meyer wants this done. He wants Castro dead. Mike, you got to do it. So if you called Tom Hanks' driver, Paulie DeCoco Jr., Paulie DeCoco Jr. would tell you how close his father and I were. We were lifelong friends. I was like Paulie's fourth son, and I loved him as an older brother or father. I love Paulie DeCoco. He's a great guy. And Junior, who drives Tom Hanks, was my bookie, and I liked him. He was a good kid. He would have never been a gangster. He couldn't take the flack, but he was a pretty good bookmaker and a very nice guy, and he's a very close friend of Jack Nicholson and all the Hollywood set. So what we're going to do is we're also going to discuss not only the potential kill of Fidel Castro, but we're going to also discuss that Meyer Lansky was the individual who owned J. Edgar Hoover. Hoover got paid off by Meyer in fixed horse races, and this is the way it is. We're going to release a little bit of news each week on YouTube. We have a website, bigmikecraft.com. We have a MySpace, MySpace/BigMikeCraft. And it gives you a lot of background on me. It gives you some contracts I have with the United States government. It gives the fact that Hillary Clinton is in receipt of the only anti-terrorist contract in the United States. It was done by me. I found a small terrorist cell, and the local office of the FBI and the Treasury Department, because they don't ever want to see me paid, refuses to do that. So on that contract, I donated half the money to the New York City Fire Department Widows and Orphans Fund for the 9/11 families. And they still won't do it. And there's a receipt posted on the website that they are in possession of that. And I'm waiting for the news people to do a story in the Daily News in New York City. I'm also looking to expand this into a general information newspaper, and we're going to start today, newsmagoos.com. Now, I want you all to listen very carefully to what I have to say, because I am the only assassin in the world that's able to discuss the assassination of two heads of state, because I didn't pull the trigger. Pierre Trudeau died of natural causes in 2000, and guess what? Meyer was right. His pallbearer was Fidel Castro. He came up from Havana to be Pierre Trudeau's pallbearer. Meyer Lansky knew what he was doing. He was a very smart man. My father worked for Lansky by fixing cases in the state of New York Supreme Court, and Meyer got me through my father and Doc Ferrone in Saratoga Springs. And I became a junior member in 1968 and lugged money all around the country. But he found out that I was raised in Canada, and he found out I was a crack shot. Now, I was going to tag Pierre Trudeau with a custom-made weapon, and we will discuss that at a later date. The weapon that I was going to use is a very inexpensive gun, but the barrels cost $4,000 a piece. The gun itself is a $100 gun. It's the barrels that cost a lot of money. We'll discuss the killing of Fidel Castro, which incidentally would have been very difficult, because Fidel travels with an enormous amount of bodyguards, and at that particular time there would have been the Canadian Air Force and the Canadian military in the streets for a state funeral. It would have been impossible for me to kill Fidel Castro. But I was paid to kill Fidel Castro, and I would have if I could have, but I probably would have been killed. The reason we're coming out with this now is my mother made me swear never to release this as long as she was alive, and she just passed away at 96. So it's time to release this, the hit on Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, and President Fidel Castro, President of Cuba. I wish you all well. If you wish to read up on a man like myself, please go to MySpace Big Mike Craft and www.bigmikecraft, that's CRAFT.com. I'll talk to you later, and you'll be seeing our new newspaper coming out, newsmagoos.com, and we'll be explaining the entire assassination plans and the entire conspiracy to kill Pierre Trudeau of Canada and Fidel Castro of Cuba. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.